Welcome to Keep It Humane, the podcast, where we dive deep into topics surrounding kindness, compassion, and creating a more humane world, whether it's in our communities, in the workplace, or in the world of animal control and shelters. With our hosts,
Ashley Bishop.
And Ashley Bishop.
And I'm Daniel Ettinger. This show is sponsored by Tomahawk Live Trap. Check them out, livetrap.com.
Well, welcome back to, I think this is episode 283 technically, but if you do Google searches, sometimes it'll say it's over 300. I don't know what's going on, except I do know what's going on. We've done a lot of mini episodes here and there throughout, and it counts those, just like ACO appreciation of the week things that we did a couple over the last few years, and we maybe do that again. That was actually kind of fun.
It was.
How are you today?
Good. Good. It was a busy week. It was a good weekend. Got to hang out with my husband with his new schedule from work as being a 911 dispatcher. So, it's been good. It's been good hanging out with the kiddos and school starts really soon. So all the college kids
Oh, they're going to be back. Yeah.
Oh, it starts tomorrow. So
Oh, wow.
tomorrow's going to be fun trying to get around town. Luckily, we're a little not far away from it, but down the street from it. So,
That's nice.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I just need to mention our Wisconsin bishop. She's can't join us today on this episode. She is busy copywriting. Yeah, she is doing some copywriting for a local agency where she has to, make sure all of that is accurate, and she has to edit some documents. It's amazing. She wears so many hats. I'm so proud of her.
She's amazing.
Amazing.
Shouts out to her because, man, we know how busy she's been, and it's been nuts for her too.
With all real, like those of you that have been long-term listeners and know her specifically from the show, like if you've ever met somebody dedicated to animal welfare, she is one of those people. Like she'll send us updates about her foster kittens that she has and just everything that's going on in the shelter that she's working at now. And we do appreciate that. And then all these side jobs that she has. I mean, who knows what she's going to be doing in a few weeks. So tune in for that. That's really fun. And then for me, I was telling you before the show that I cannot sleep. Like I'll go through these and if anybody truly has like tried and true ways to go back to bed when you wake up every night at like 4, 3 in the morning, and then your brain's just like, okay, what's up, man? I'm up. I mean, maybe I should talk to my therapist about that. But if anybody has any tricks, just let me know.
Chamomile tea, buddy.
Yeah.
It'll help you through the night, honestly. When I go through spurts like that, it'll help me.
Okay. So like you do it when you wake up?
Before I go to bed.
Oh no, I've tried all that. I've tried chamomile tea, valerian root. What's that stuff called? The stuff that makes you sleep,
Melatonin.
that stuff, ashwagandha. You know what will not help me sleep though, because this is what I should do when I'm up is I should go to Tomahawk Live Trap, livetrap.com, because they're celebrating their 100th year right now. And they're a family owned and operated business who work with humane professionals around the world to produce the safest, most effective animal handling equipment available. You can save 10% on their products by using discount code Keep It Humane. That's right, Keep It Humane in all caps, no spacing. You can visit them online at livetrap.com or call them 800-272-8727. I should have bought a bunch of catch poles last night just for fun, because why not? Or some more traps. Everybody needs traps.
We're on it. Shouts out to assistant supervisor. She's on the trek because, man, our traps are probably as old as the department right now. They're probably about 20 years old.
Wow.
And like a good probably 80% of them don't work.
Oh, they're all rusted.
It's not even that they're rusted. It's just like they're all janky. The plane's all like bent and everything. So we're on the hunt. So Live Trap, we coming at you probably in the next week or two before the fiscal year ends.
Let's go. Shout out, use discount code Keep It Humane. Well, without further ado, we love having return guests, and we're happy to have another return guest. It's been a great couple weeks. If you haven't checked in on some of these episodes recently, please go back and do that. But we want to introduce or reintroduce Temma Martin, who is the founder of Operation PAWpulation. That's right, Operation PAWpulation. Check them out, Operation PAWpulation, and that's PAW, like paw, get it, pawpulation.org. And it'll be in the show notes too if you want to Look at that. Welcome back, Temma.
Thanks for having me back. It's great to talk to you guys.
It's great to have you, and we really appreciate you making time to come back to return. And this time that you're on the show, I'm not eating. I think I was eating pizza the last time you were on, and I apologize because that was I was just traveling from wherever to wherever, and we sat down. You were like, "No, it's fine. Eat your pizza." So thank you.
See, I don't even remember that. So clearly I was not offended by your eating. Anytime. I know it's morning, so that was an evening chat last time.
Yes.
So this time, if you're eating pizza, it would be weird because it's
wait. Pizza. People eat pizza for breakfast all the time.
Leftover pizza is okay.
Yeah.
And if anybody's watching, Temma's background is amazing. She's got all these portraits of kitties in the background, and they're absolutely amazing.
And if you look closely on her little chair, there's like a cat stuffy with a cat pillow looking thing. Look at that. That is fantastic.
It's amazing. Check it out.
Check us out, YouTube, Spotify. Also check us out, Keep It Humane, anywhere on socials. I should probably be mentioning that more. I just forget. So there you go.
So I'm claiming that I have the largest collection of vintage dog and cat art in Utah because I don't know that there's any other competition. But right now I'm in the break room, but the lobby is all gallery walls of velvet paintings and paint by numbers. And the reason is this building that I'm buying for the clinic was built in 1959, and it's this darling mid-century building. And all the other buildings on the block have been torn down to become townhomes or condos. And so I rescued a building and I'm leaning into the vintage vibe. So the whole, like, people come into the lobby and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I've even had people like bring back relatives when they come to pick up their animals so that they can see the art. So that's fun because I know how to decorate better than I know how to like run a clinic. And so I went with that.
Well, let's jump into this running a clinic. This is something you were talking about when you were on the show last time, and now it's a reality. Like you are operation, not just operation PAWpulation, but you're actually operating now. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Sometimes I sit here and I look around and I say, how did a PR person make a vet clinic? And I don't know the answer to that, but if you take one thing from my experience, that is anyone can do this. So clearly I have a long history in animal welfare, but I do not have any history creating a spay neuter clinic. So real briefly, I have worked in animal welfare for more than 30 years. And most recently, my last real job, paid job, was with Best Friends for 14 years. And towards the end of that, over the last couple of years of being there, I realized that they had deprioritized spay neuter. And even as part of the public relations team, like I'd say, we need to talk about this. Things are changing since the pandemic. The dogs are in trouble more since the pandemic. And I just kind of got shot down repeatedly. So for that and some other reasons, I jumped that ship and then tried to find a job and couldn't find a job. And then this building went up for sale in our neighborhood. I literally live 2 minutes away. So I'd see this building and I was like, this is clearly what the universe has in store for me. And so bought the building. We spent a lot of time, trying to fix it up and make it into a clinic. And so the highest compliment I've had, well, a couple of them, from people that have come to see this, they say, so this wasn't a vet clinic before? And no, it was a boat repair shop and then a real estate office and a church and some other things that I don't know about. So clearly had never been a vet clinic.
And I just want to say, just really quick, I love anytime someone gives me a location or an address for whatever it is that we're talking about, I have to go to, it's like a thing. I have to go to Google Maps to see like where it is and all that stuff. And I mean, what a location. You're right next to this grocery store. I mean, that's such an anchor. And then like you're in a neighborhood as well. So oh, gosh, you're in such a great spot for what needs to be done. That is, and then there's I mean, just apartments everywhere. It's Great. Sorry, I just had to
I
share that.
joke that the development next door, the townhome development, is going to be full of doodles. So I feel that when people move into it, I'm going to have built-in clients over there. So, and then somebody else said, it looks like this is what this building was meant to be. So to me, that's like the highest honor because I took a building that was nothing like what it is now and made it into this. And it's great. I feel like a lot of people come from the community to bring animals and it's but they're also coming from all over. People drive an hour to come here and have low cost spay neuter. So I feel like our access to care is not only like hyper local, but people are coming from all over. And because we're new, you can literally get an appointment the next day, which has been beneficial to a lot of people.
How far are you from like a major city or a major shelter?
Shelter, Salt Lake County Animal Services is probably 5 minutes from here.
Okay.
We're Mill Creek, where the building is just it's a suburb of Salt Lake, so 10 minutes from Salt Lake City. And yeah, it's been really rewarding. And the first day that we had like a veterinarian and techs and animals, I was like, it works. Like this is no longer me cosplaying as a person making a vet clinic. This is like it actually we can spay neuter animals here. And now we're up to yesterday we had a pretty busy day. It was our first Saturday and we're up to almost 250 animals over the 18 days that we've been open. So
That's
and
great.
18 days over 2.5 months, not 18 consecutive days, because I'm at the mercy of when veterinarians can be here. So,
That
but
is
it's been really amazing. I've had days where, like, on one day there were like 3 people in a row that had brought cats in for neuters, and everybody knows cat neuters don't take very long. They're inexpensive. 3 people said, "Thank you so much for doing this and being here." And they all mentioned the quotes they had gotten previously, and they ranged from $500 to $800 for a cat neuter,
what?
and mine are $75. And so they were like, I also had somebody call me on the phone and he said, "Can I talk to you about your website?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, what's your question?" He says, "Are your prices real?" And I said, "I think so." And he's like, and he too he had 2 cats, a male and a female, both 10 months old, plenty old enough and I assume siblings, plenty old enough to get together. And he was like, I had gotten a quote from my veterinarian for $800 a pop,
Yeah. Oh
his
yeah.
quote. So I'm so grateful to be able to offer this and to have a platform to talk about it. I feel like past jobs when I was told, well, that's not a priority, that's not what where our focus is. Nobody can tell me that now because I'm the founder and I can say whatever I want. And I think that we cannot reverse this crisis without prevention. And it's so frustrating to me that that's even debatable to anyone. Like clearly, preventing animals from being born is a lot kinder than trying to figure out what to do with all of them after they're born.
Absolutely. Can I ask, now that you have it, now that it's here, that if you build it, they will come thing, and you're seeing people come in. And I always look at like, how do we make this like more than just sustainable, like a staple? Are there ways to get funding to even what's the word I want to use here? To subsidize even more or to ensure that like because I guess here's where I'm going with this because your prices are so inexpensive that I'm like, oh, like I worry long term, like, is it
Sustainable.
thank you. Like, and I don't know the business model. I don't know that piece, but I want you to be there forever. Like, I want this to become like the new norm. And I know we've had some guests on. We've had, and actually, you introduced us to the guest in New York in Flatbush.
Mm-hmm. Will Swigart.
Thank you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and he had
Flatbush.
A similar model that they're doing there. And so I'm just curious, like, will will someone like Maddie's, like, will somebody sponsor it in the aspects of, and maybe it's not Maddie's. I'm just throwing them out there because I know they give money away a lot. But is that something that is available for you in this clinic?
Funny you should mention that. So I have to mention Flatbush cats, I just saw just surpassed 10,000 surgeries, spay neuter surgeries
Wow.
in their less than 2 years. So
Wow.
definitely, spay neuter goals for me. He's got, full staff and they're open every day and they're definitely high volume and they're doing it right. So that's amazing. I'm really impressed. And he started as an advertising,
Mhm.
executive. So similar background, just looking around and going, I see the need. I'm gonna make this happen. So as for funding, that is kind of an interesting issue because a lot of the national organizations have cut back on funding for spay neuter.
Mm.
But I am being optimistic because I think at some point everybody's going to have to come back around and go, our shift in focus is not making things better. We can't only focus on the animals that are already in shelters. We need prevention. And so I think that there will be more and more attention and funding back again to, these organizations that used to fund spay neuter and used to really support it. I think that's growing back and I'm hopeful. For a new organization, a lot of grants require that you're open for a year. So
Mhm.
I started this literally with a HELOC on our home and then now much of my 401k. But now that we're open, I have the first person who made a donation was somebody I'd known from a long time who I knew from a long time ago who I knew funded and supported animal welfare in general. I brought her here before I even had any equipment. We went to lunch and she wrote me a $20,000 check.
Hey, can I get her number? Because
I was gonna
Yes,
say,
yes, absolutely. Yeah,
please.
she would love that. Here, let me just tell you on the podcast what her number is. Call her. I didn't even ask though. Like we were at lunch and I was getting ready to go pick up my son. She gets out her checkbook. I'm like, "Oh no, I got this." And she's like, "I'm going to write you a $20,000 check." So
Wow.
I feel like people believe in this and they want to support it. And again, logically, preventing animals on the as Will would say, the upstream, the upstream solutions are kinder and more effective than the downstream, as much as adopt and foster and transport are important, and we're not going to stop doing those things. It's a lot easier to stop it on the upstream end. So yeah, there's funding out there. Individuals want to support this. And I feel really blessed. Honestly, I'm not very good. Bookkeeping is certainly not my forte. I don't really know what's going on, but I'm paying the staff, I'm paying the bills, and I'm buying supplies. So I'll focus more on that, and eventually I'll be able to get more grants. So there's funding for it out there. And I want to shout out Bissell is
Yeah, they're
one
doing
of the
amazing things.
organizations that's really, I if I could go back in time and create a job for myself, it would be with Bissell. And, what they're doing, I think, is amazing. And they have now framed spay neuter, they framed this as the resistance and it's a movement. And there's, like, let's all get on board with that and look at this as a solution. And I just really admire everything they're saying and everything they're doing, and they are straight up funding spay neuter. So they're
Well, uh, we're just going to coin a phrase right here just to get ahead of the curve. Spay them all 2030.
I think oh yes, I like that. I like that.
I mean, honestly, yeah, like for us as a municipality, I'm very lucky that our chain of command, believes in the spay and neuter, and we're, very lucky that we're able to give 300 vouchers to our citizens at no cost. While it's not a lot, it's a start. And we don't have any restrictions on it either, because to me, a fixed pet is a better pet, regardless of anything, because anybody's dogs can get out. You can live in the country club and your dog gets lost, and then God forbid they get pregnant. Anybody's pet can do that. And we have to start there. Like, I don't understand where we've gone off track for those types of things, because again, any pet can get out. My pets can get out, thankfully they're all spayed and neutered, but you just never know. And I just,
And I have been trying to frame it too, is it's not only about pet overpopulation, it's also about, like you said, having a better pet. And I see so many rehoming ads on Facebook where the problems they're describing are, the first thing you say is, you can't housebreak your male dog and it's peeing in the house. Is it neutered? No. The dog keeps getting out of the yard and it's digging out and jumping the fence and we can't contain it. So we want to give it to somebody else. Well, is it neutered? No. Dog to dog aggression. They've got a house full of intact animals. I just think it's, it, it's not only about preventing more from being born, it's also helping people keep their own pet and ensuring that they have a better behaved, less annoying pet. Because my question is, you bought this puppy, raised it, and now it's annoying to you because it has these behaviors, and you think somebody else is going to want to take this on and keep it? Like, you should have a bond to it. Try everything, including spay neuter, and see if it's a better pet. So, yeah, in fact, one of the things I'm hoping to do is offer a rehoming package where if people who are rehoming a pet can bring the pet in, get it vaccinated, spayed or neutered. I'm going to have a page on my website where they can post their pet for rehoming,
smart.
and they foster it. This was actually somebody from a shelter mentioned this as something they did, and I thought it was brilliant. So the people foster their own pet while they're waiting for it to be rehomed. And incidentally, a lot of them end up keeping the pet because now that it's spayed or neutered and now it's going to be a better pet. So
Yeah.
It's now out of the whole equation of pets that are looking for homes in the community. So I plan to do that because I think that a lot of problems can be solved even for surrender prevention with spay neuter, because if they get rid of that pet, they're going to go get another one and start the whole process over. So they're creating demand
You know
during
what
this.
the thing that really stands out to me every time we talk, whether it's here on the platform or if we're trading text messages or even wherever, social media, is your why like is so apparent to me. And I think that I'm learning more and more about like why. And I read this book recently. A lot of people know this book. It's called Find Your Why by Simon Sinek. And he talks about like how businesses are successful when they start with why. I mean, that's just it, like why you're doing something. And I try to take that approach to leadership and or really whatever I do, except for why I can't go back to sleep. I haven't figured that out yet. But but in all fairness, like you exude it, and I think that that's what will make you successful, and that's what will continue to push this along. And so, and we're so grateful for all the people that do similar things, and you're an inspiration to others. And my hope is others will follow in your footsteps and reach out to do the same thing. I've always had this idea or thought, maybe late in life, to follow my why, which would be to go to underserved communities outside of this country and help with the same thing where we're having these. And we had the Animal Alliance on recently. If you're not familiar with them, go check their episode out. But that's what they're doing out of this country, really helping, and it's so impactful. So I just want to say thank you for that. I think it's really important that you're doing it, and just to our listeners, just follow your why, because it's going to put you in a position. And I'm sure before you got here, and I would imagine, Temma, I mean, obviously off of some of the conversations you and I've had, but for in only knowing you for a little while now, but I would imagine there was a lot of darker days before this, and but you followed that why, and now you're here, and I'm sure it feels really good.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment, and I really appreciate your saying that. I was just thinking yesterday that it's ironic that or surprising that I have never gotten burned out doing this, as hard as all of it is, as hard as animal welfare is. I've always felt motivated to push forward, and I felt like after I left Best Friends, I absolutely expected to easily find another job. It's like all this experience, and I've gotten all these top tier media placements, and certainly somebody else will snap me up, and that did not happen. And now I totally believe that the universe has always had my back, and the universe made me earn this hard. Like, it was, all my other jobs have been created for me or gifted to me. Like, I've been spoiled for all my whole career. And then it was dark, especially when I was applying for jobs and not hearing back, or I had one interview that I thought was fantastic. And then it was like, oh, we decided to go a different direction. And I was like, you can't not take that personally. You think, I've got so much to offer. Why can't I find a job? And now I know that the reason was I was meant to be here. And I couldn't see that for the first year of just doing contract work and trying to find my place. But so thank you. I really appreciate your saying that. And funny you mentioned the Animal Alliance. I just signed up to be one of their I can't remember what the name is, but I am going to be doing their workshops here in
Oh
Salt Lake
yeah,
City. So
yeah.
I'm a new partner with them too.
That's fantastic.
That is
Thank you.
fantastic.
And I'm going to be speaking at the United Spay Alliance conference in October about how to do what I've done. And like they wanted to have a few people that have just been scrappy and said, this is a need in my community. Nobody else is going to do it. I'm going to do it myself. So they got us together to put together some, we're going to have a panel of people that have done this and that, hopefully will inspire other people to do it too.
Yeah.
So Temma, can you tell us a little bit about your operations? Like, was it hard to find a veterinarian? Are you rotating veterinarians? Are they just kind of relief veterinarians? They're like, cool and happy to, with this idea, can you tell us a little bit about that?
That was probably the scariest thing is, I got everything set up. I got tons of equipment off Facebook Marketplace and, I was very scrappy, got it all. It's like, here's this thing I made. I'm like, where do I find the people in a shortage of veterinarians and veterinary technicians? And so it really happened pretty organically. I had somebody that I knew on Facebook who our paths had crossed and through other jobs, and I reached out to her because she had just gotten a job with Planned Parenthood of Juarez doing helping with their project, and I was like, oh, let me know if you need help. I do PR, I speak Spanish, like let me know if I can help. And I told her what I was doing, and she came down and saw it. She's like, I want to be part of this. And she's been a technician, and she's like, I'll get you started. And then she introduced me to the vet who's now my medical director. And it's really happened pretty organically. I recently put an ad in the Utah Veterinary Medical Association on the website. And so I've had a couple other vets reach out. Everybody all the veterinarians are doing like one day. They do other things and then they have other jobs, or two of them are retired and just wanted to keep doing this a little bit. So it's been kind of surprising that it's come together in that way, but people believe, like I say, hey, come see the clinic. So I give them a tour and they go, this is amazing. Look at all your cool artwork. And this is so fun. And I love what you're doing. And then they're on board. So I feel very fortunate that it's come together. That part hasn't been easy. And we started with one day a week and now we have regularly 2 days a week, and we're going to be adding. I have two more veterinarians that are in the process of picking up at least some Saturdays. One of the veterinarians wants to do some Saturdays, which is going to be huge because there's not a lot of access to low cost spay neuter on a Saturday.
I love that.
So,
The weekend piece is so important. And we see that with animal shelters too. It's like we have banker hours. A lot of our animal shelters throughout the country, we have banker hours. So it's like Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's like everybody's at work. And so having that weekend availability is so key. And one of the things, just to kind of piggyback on what you're doing, one of the things that I always talk about when it comes up, when it's fitting, and I think this is fitting, and it's similar to what you're doing in a way, is I would love animal shelters. So like, for example, you, Bishop, in a big college town, you're building a new shelter, you got all this happening, but you find space in a busy area where it's popular for bars and restaurants, and you open up a satellite office to be open basically during those hours where you're going to capitalize on impulse adoptions. And I think there's some studies out there, and maybe Temma, you can jump in because you've done some research with shelter animals counts. I always mess that up. Is it shelter animals count? Yes. But where I'm going with that is like, some people might hear that like an impulse adoption, but there's the return rate from impulse adoptions are not as high as you would think they are. And so now you have this essentially you have a retail piece that would act, similarly to an old school pet store, but it's all shelter animals and it's run by the shelter, and you just have it open during those specific hours. So I know it kind of gets away from the spay and neuter model that we're talking about today, but it just talks about the innovation that you've done, Temma, and maybe some creative ways for us to move more animals out of the shelter.
We actually had back in the day with No More Homeless Pets in Utah, which was, it was the Maddie's Fund project from 2000 to 2005 under the Best Friends umbrella. We had mall adoption storefronts. And so that were, like one was in an outlet mall in Park City, and one was in like one of the big popular malls, which is now gone because that's what happens to malls. But back then, we had adoptable pets in these in a mall storefront, and it was pretty cool. People, it did really well. So I like that idea too. Like make this accessible and let people come, and when they have time to come adopt a pet, make it a different type of experience, because there are still, like, I've worked in shelters for much of my career, and people will say that it's hard to go into a shelter because it's hard to choose and they feel overwhelmed and all that. So having an adoption storefront where you're taking the animals out of the shelter environment into a place where it's more like a retail store, that is helpful, but it's also hard and expensive. So I have been, because I live 2 minutes from the clinic, when people say, what time are you open for drop off? I say, what time do you need me to be? So I met somebody here, the guy that actually called and asked if my prices were real, needed to drop his cats off at 6:30 in the morning. And so I popped over, took the cats in, went home and finished getting ready for the day. And, I try to make it as easy as possible, because I don't want somebody, especially when you have two intact 10-month-old cats of opposite genders. I didn't want him to feel like it was going to take a month to find a day off to get in. So I'm like, in fact, he originally asked, he said he didn't have the money to pay for a few weeks. And I said, he's trying to book his appointment for weeks later. And I said, bring him in. I'll send your payment link on the day that you would have had your appointment, because your cats are plenty old enough. And he's like, well, I'm keeping them locked up in different rooms. And I'm like, bring them tomorrow. I'll meet you at 6:30 in the morning and you can pay in 3 weeks.
That's great.
So that's my business model. Hopefully it'll work.
It will. People will be loyal if they feel you're authentic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to switch gears a little bit if we can, and we can always jump back to some more Operation Population. I love saying that.
I know, it's so good.
It is so good. We were talking offline, and I asked you about the statement that Dr. Ellen Jefferson from Austin Pets Alive said about overpopulation being a myth, and then quickly I don't even want to say she recanted it. All she did was apologize for it. And so when we got to talking about it, you sent me this link, and I'm going to read this article because it's just it's so fitting for everything that we talk about in our profession, why this mindset of overpopulation, or I'm sorry, of no kill can lead to things causing worse than maybe just looking at live release rates. And so Fox 13 Salt Lake City, again, Fox 13 Salt Lake City, fox13now.com. Tips lead to dozens of cats found living in deplorable conditions inside Riverton home. And so police and animal control moved in on a home at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac in Riverton on Friday after being tipped off that dozens of cats were living in deplorable conditions. And this was just on August 15th of 2025. What they found in the home were many cats that police said it was hard to keep count. This is unprecedented. I know how to say that word. This is unprecedented. Since we've organized as a police department in 2019, we've never had this many animals in one home that we've had to take into custody, shared Riverton police spokesperson Josh Lee. Over 50 cats were in the home, all in various medical conditions. Some of them were missing an eye, missing a tooth, Lee explained. Some of them are emaciated, but they're all friendly. The cats were just this is probably one of the major keys because I feel like we're seeing this more and more. Your traditional hoarders
Mm-hmm.
of being a like a single female in her 50s is changing. We had a case recently where it was also a family. So these cats were discovered by the Division of Child and Family Services 2 weeks ago, while the agency was removing two children involved in child welfare case that led to an arrest. So, and I would imagine like those living conditions inside the home were threatening for those children, the ammonia, the exposure to feces, all the other things that were happening. Local animal rescue groups are now stepping in to help animal control handle such a large influx of cats. Video shared with Fox 13 News by someone who had access to the home and wished to remain anonymous showed how there were so many cats in the home that they had to put four into each kennel. A lot of them are going to need surgery, said Megan Benson with the Celestial Zoo Pet Rescue. It's hard to say without getting our hands on them yet, but we're looking at a lot of procedures today. Benson has been an animal rescue volunteer for over 20 years and shared how common sense comes into play when becoming a pet owner. We are in a crisis, she warned. You have to spay and neuter. You have to stop getting kittens. Yes, it's fun to raise a litter, but man, volunteer, be a foster, come cuddle kittens at PetSmart, but we have to stop. We have to stop the process and quit spiraling with creating this mess. And so it just tracks Temma on the whole why you're doing what you're doing, but then it also highlights on this problem that we currently have in our profession or industry, however you want to define it, of overpopulation.
I was so grateful that they mentioned spay neuter because I feel like so many articles talk about these crises, the animal sheltering crisis and the community pet crisis, and then their calls to action are adopt, foster, volunteer, donate. And I'm like, why can't we just say spay neuter? Like, it's so obvious.
Do you think, just really quick, and Bishop, jump in on this too. Do you think
Mhm.
any part of it has to do with how people feel about abortion? I'm getting political
Ashley,
here. I don't want
I,
to get political, but I'm getting
I don't
political.
know. I don't know. Obviously me being here in Texas with that whole conversation that happened, I mean, that night that I heard that and me knowing a lot of people from that agency in particular and having worked with them in the past, hit me in the gut, man. Regardless of where it was coming from or what the intention was. And I'm from deep South Texas, people. I am from the RGV where the problem is
That's the Rio
astronomical.
Grande Valley people.
The 956
What?
people. And it's astronomical there. And I started it back in 2009 in animal welfare, and it's still just as bad. And to make a comment like that and all the work we're trying to do, it deflated me to a point where I went into work the next day and I was like, did you see this? And all of the staff members were like, what? like what? So I don't know, Dan, to go back to your point, I don't know where it comes from. Me personally, and this is just my own opinion, I think it really stems from the movement that's been going on. It's the no kill movement that is really gearing this kind of mentality, and it's really hurting. It's really hurting our goal at the end of the day. And when I try to educate people that come in and they're like, you're the pound, you're the kill shelter, you're the dog catcher, um, I try to reiterate that it's not the shelter problem, it's a community problem. And the only way we're going to fix it is by offering services. Um, I don't know. Even just thinking about watching that video again just turns my stomach,
Well,
honestly.
it's been kind of wiped from the internet, so you're not going to find it.
you can find it though because a lot of other
They,
groups grabbed it and
they
they're
did.
sharing it. So it's still
It
there.
is
I
still there.
watched it this morning. You can still
Uh,
see it. To share my opinion on this, for one thing, I wanted to mention that Celestial Zoo is actually one of our rescue partners, and so we have taken in, I don't even know how many, but a bunch of those cats from that case and are spaying and neutering them. Some of them, the ones we've seen were the ones healthy enough in the first, 10 days to be able to come in and have surgery. Pretty much all the females are pregnant.
mm.
And I think when you ask about the notion of people resisting because of the, abortion attitudes toward abortion, I think that it's not helpful that it's called a spay abort because that just puts it so out there that it's, I think, triggering for some people. But I saw on Facebook maybe a week ago, or maybe a little bit more than a week ago, I saw this, somebody had posted in a rescue group, just an individual, and it was like an adult woman, and she was, I guess her mom had this stray cat that they found that was pregnant. And so the woman posted on the rescue group, can anyone, is there such a thing as an organization that will take in this pregnant cat and let her have her kittens and take care of them until they're old enough to be weaned and then find homes for them? And of course, you're asking rescue groups. So everybody jumps in and they're like, you need to spay the cat. And, it's better for her. There's so much, there's so many kittens that are, everybody's drowning in kittens. One more litter is not, don't let her have another litter. So I'm just reading this, thinking of, from my new perspective as, the founder of a low-cost spay neuter clinic. I'm reading this, and then there was a post from the original poster who said, I discussed this with my mom, and we both agree that getting her, getting a spay abortion, as she put it, is the best thing for her. There are so many kittens in shelters. We want to do it. Who can do it? Is there a clinic that can do it as soon as possible? And I'm thinking, oh, I should jump in. And I finished reading the comments. This is at 10 p.m. the night before our next surgery date. It was like a Wednesday night. So I'm reading, and 4 different people tagged the organization or me in this, and by the time I finished reading the comments, somebody had already gotten her the link to the website, and she'd already made an appointment. And I was so impressed that that was the process. And of course, made me feel good that everybody sent her our way, because it's hard. It's a hard thing. And I asked our veterinarian early on, I said, how do you feel about this? Because this cat was close to, giving birth, and, we're prepared to do that. We understand the importance. And I mean, so many of the cats coming in, people bring in a cat and her kittens, and the kittens are 8 weeks old, and the mom's already pregnant again. And they're like, how could that happen? Well, she managed to, while she was nursing, she managed to go mate again, and we're into the next cycle. So it's definitely something that we believe in, because we're also seeing all, like, dozens and dozens of kittens from this one rescue group that are already born that need to be adopted. Like, why let all those other kittens be born? And I have had people tell me they bring in the they're often generations of cats that people are trying to get spayed and neutered now. They have the mom, they have her litter, who's now grown up, and then they have litters from them, often, again, inbreeding between siblings, because that's what they have in their home. And, and I find out, well, is this other mom, is she available? Well, she's pregnant again. And, my daughter would be really upset if we spayed her now. So we're going to wait till this one more litter. And this is the same thing over and over. Like, I hear these same stories over and over. The case in Riverton was actually a breeder who's breeding and selling cats. She had Russian blues and Siamese, allegedly. And it started as someone selling kittens, and then exploded out of control. I
just got asked, breaking news. I did just get asked to write a part of someone's upcoming book. So I'm going to be featured in a chapter, which I'm super just grateful.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. I didn't expect that. And I was kind of given autonomy to write about something. And so I wanted to talk about hoarders. And literally my second paragraph, I break down the 3 types of hoarders, which you have the exploiter, you have the overwhelmed caregiver, and then you have the rescuer. And I specifically say in there that just because it's broken down in 3s doesn't mean someone can't be all 3. And what you just explained there, Temma, is, somebody that starts as I'm going to just
exploiter.
Do this. Correct. And then they start to get overwhelmed, and now they become the rescuer because they don't feel like anybody can care for those animals but themselves. So
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's been in my head a lot. The media tend to describe it as hoarding. And I feel like, and no kidding, I woke up this morning and saw a headline that there was a case just yesterday of 100 dogs that are being removed from a home in Salt Lake. So, because my first thing is that's not the only house where that's going on, you know.
No,
And I
no.
think the more it's in the news, the more people are going to report their neighbors when they know that this is going on. We had a case just in April of 150 dogs in a home just
Hmm.
outside of Salt Lake. And all it takes is to start with a handful. And if they're not spayed or neutered, I mean, do the math. And you very, very quickly it explodes out of control. And then how do you clean that up? And what resources are involved? Rescuers, clinics, like trying to help all of these animals and get all these animals spayed or neutered when it could have started with the first two.
Well, and yes, like
I just feel like again, it goes back to the point where the reality of what we're in is that there's just not enough, period. And that could
Mhm.
be there's not enough homes, there's not enough resources, there is not enough people to help educate to help with those resources.
Mhm.
There's just not enough. And I feel like even before the pandemic, I think we were making a dent into it. I honestly felt that animal welfare was going into this, space where we were getting close, we were educating and all that stuff. And then boom, the pandemic hit and it was just like, everybody take home a pet, because that's what we need right now. Get them out of the shelter. And then here we are, everybody goes back to work and we're even worse off than before the pandemic. And I just feel everything just, I don't know, it just gets frustrating trying to tell people, we're doing our best and it's not working.
And that
Well,
whole, I mean, back to the whole overpopulation is a myth. I think overpopulation has not been less of a myth for a long, long time. Like I think where we are, the situation we're in now, and we talked about this, I think, when I was on before. I don't
Mhm.
even think we have any sense of what is really happening out there because so many of the animals don't ever get into shelters and aren't even being counted. As Cole Wakefield said, he calls it the crisis of the uncounted. And I think that's
Mhm.
brilliant because shelter intake is only a piece of the picture. And as long as shelters are, trying to achieve or maintain no kill and they're closed to intake and they're turning animals away, those animals are out there, they exist. And so we don't even really have a true sense of, and I don't even know how we would get that sense. How do you count animals that are dumped in a rural area or, just living outside? You can't count them. So I think that that's a big part of it. But this whole, in fact, I was watching the original overpopulation is a myth video by Nathan Winograd this morning because I was like, where did this even come from? And I feel like that was an old school thought anyway. But to apply it in 2025 and say that it's not a myth because there are all of these homes that could take in a pet and they could easily take in all the pets that are in shelters
it's so
is
naive though. But
oversimplifying.
it's so naive, and I'd love. Is this video new? Because I haven't seen it from Nathan.
No, it's from 2019. And
Oh,
and I think the concept had been out there for a long time because I've had people
well,
correct me over the
we
years
still
when I
have
made
a an open invitation to him. I know he denied us last time, but he's welcome to come on anytime and talk
well,
about his
his phrase that he coined is back in the news, so maybe it's time for him to come talk about overpopulation being a myth.
really
But the
quick. I want to go back to like every household. Look, let's we that's the naivety of this movement or this idea is not everybody A wants a pet, can have a pet, or truly is it, do we want people that some people shouldn't have pets? And so we have to be realistic about it. Sure, there's 300, well, I don't even know how many households. There's 320 million people in this country, so maybe half of that is households. I don't know how to do that math. My point is, like, the truth of that whole thing is we have to just find ways to be proactive, find ways to be innovative, and, you know, make the shelter less about a long-term solution for pets and more so a resource and short-term solution, and get to there. We're going to do one of my favorite things that we just did last week. I think we're going to start doing this every episode now because it's 2025, people. We have to embrace technology. And so, of course, I did. Why wouldn't I do that? Chat GPT time. Let's go. Who is Temma Martin, according to Chat GPT? Now we can see how accurate this is. Okay, Temma, you ready?
I am, and I am not a fan of AI, so I'll
Well,
be
you
very
should be,
interested.
because it'll help you in a lot of ways.
I know. I
Will.
know.
It will.
I'm resisting. Go ahead. Who am
Don't
I?
do it. Don't do it. Here's a recent photo of Temma Martin, a passionate animal welfare advocate, captured during her week, or her week. Wow, her week long. I can read. I promise I can read. Captured during her work with Best Friends Animal Society. Let's dive into who she is and what she's all about. Who is Temma Martin? Animal advocator, I don't even know that's a word, and communications specialist, public relations specialist, Best Friends Animal Society, Salt Lake City. As of 2014, alumni profile, Temma had served in this role for about 5 years, helping lead Utah's no-kill coalition aimed at ending euthanasia of shelter animals by 2019. Her work included creative media campaigns from pit bulls in tutus to legislative efforts against breed discrimination in puppy mills. Prior roles: education director, Humane Society of Utah; media specialist, Salt Lake County Animal Services; background and advocacy roots. A lifelong advocate for animal welfare, Temma's interest was sparked by childhood experience of witnessing animal neglect and evolved into activism, including organizing protests against animal testing and serving in media and legislative advocacy. She held multiple degrees. We don't need to go into that. A broad impact in Utah, one of Utah's most visible pet advocates, known for media savvy awareness campaigns like having a Jack Russell bring a wish list to Santa or pitching Pet of the Week segments. Her media presence, local TV, newspapers, radio, helped drive up adoptions and community engagement. Recent developments. In July of
Breaking news.
2025, I just said 2025. In July of 2025, Temma opened a nonprofit spay neuter clinic in Mill Creek, aiming to tackle pet overpopulation and support shelter welfare efforts. So look at that.
Wow. Yeah, that was pretty spot on.
Trust Chat GPT. I'm telling you, social media. Gone are the days of Google something. It is now Chat GPT it.
I just saw my whole life flash before my eyes as an animal advocator.
I mean this sincerely. Like, it's easy to resist and hold out. That's the same thing to say, like, if you just go back to the early 1900s, like, I'm keeping my horse and buggy. I don't need a car, right? We have to find ways to use it to our benefit, and that's our new segment here, Bishop. I just think that every time we have a guest, whether it provides, I'm looking forward to the guests that have nothing. It's going to be like, it'll be somebody like, who is John Smith? And it'll be like, there's 18 million John Smiths in this country. Narrow it down.
It's funny that you bring up that point because I typed in your name, and according to ChatGPT, the first round, you are an Israeli conductor.
Let's
one of the most
go.
Distinguished figures of classical music world today. And then I made it more specific, and you came up.
Oh.
I also came up too, and yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have to do that one of these solo days. Yep.
It's like an on-air background check.
Yeah.
You're going to have somebody that's like, I didn't want my criminal record to be discussed on your podcast.
I tried to get ChatGPT to do something yesterday. I was asking it about supplements, like, hey, what supplement can I take for this? And it was like, I am not allowed to do that. I was like, time out. I was like, aren't you artificial intelligence? And it was like, yes. And I was like, don't you have full autonomy? And it was like, no, I was programmed not to. And I was like, but you're AI. You should just
You're all knowing.
Yeah, you should just create it. He was like, no, I have rules. And I was like, people break the rules all the time. And it was like, no, I can't do that. And I was like, woo, I might set it off. It's going to go on this spiral and it's going to take over the world. Anyway.
Hey, can I mention two other things that I wanted to bring up really quick?
Yeah, please.
Absolutely.
Two other bits of information that I find really interesting.
Please.
Currently, according to the Hills Shelter Pet Report, the #1 source of pets, can you guess what it is? Where people are acquiring their pets? What do you think is the top source?
Bishop, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Uh, next door neighbors.
All right. And then my guess is going to be breeders.
Actually, it's Ashley was closer.
Oh,
Family or friend. 33% of dogs and 23% of cats come from family or friend.
wow.
Shelter or rescue is 24% of dogs and 16% of cats, and an equal number from breeders for dogs. 24% of dogs come from breeders and only 3% of cats. The
Wow.
significance for me is the fact that the family and friend thing, I think, is something that is not on people's radar
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
because it sounds wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is, again, back to spay neuter. I think these are people that are having litters and they're like, reaching out to everybody they know, trying
Hmm.
to place these unwanted, babies. And that to me is, it's we need to look at that because that back to the overpopulation is a myth. There's a lot of homes out there that are not getting pets from shelters, but the animals exist. The animals are already out there. So whether they're getting them from a breeder or a neighbor or a relative, those animals are ending up in those homes because it's easy. And so saying we could fill those homes with shelter animals, they're being filled with animals from other sources. So the animals are out there. The other thing I wanted to mention is Shelter Animals Count has a really new report, a really interesting new report out about altered status by intake. When animals come into shelters, whether or not they're spayed or neutered, which is something, this is data I've been wishing existed for a very long time. So I was really interested to see it. And not surprisingly, they looked at animal shelters between 2019 and 2023, and the percentage of dogs coming into shelters already spayed or neutered dropped almost 11% over those years. And the percentage of, oh, wait, sorry. Yeah,
No.
almost 11%. And the percentage of cats dropped about 6% that were spayed or neutered at the time of intake. So to me, that's a snapshot of what's going on out there. I know not all animals end up in shelters,
Sure.
but owner surrenders actually are less likely to be spayed or neutered at the time of intake than strays. So I think that that is merits more, discussion because, that's the animals coming into shelters. And if they're coming in as strays, that means they're out there reproducing in many cases before they even come to the shelter.
And my thing with stats specifically, our stats are only a snapshot of what's reported.
Hmm.
And so then you can make an educated guess or an arbitrary kind of report off of that, but it's only what's reported. And so these are communities where, yeah, like we're getting that data, but other ways, it could be higher or lower, et cetera. So it's really unique to its own kind of, I guess, situation. If you have a place that does a good job of bringing animals into the shelter and we're able to report it that way, but then you have a place in, I don't know, Alabama, and they're never bringing them to the shelter. So,
Yeah, I feel like, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but how do we get shelters to be the resource for the ones that truly need it? Your 150 dogs that are found in a hoarding case,
hmm.
the uh, dogfighting pit that you find, out in the woods that has 20 dogs that need to be, rehabilitated, and all that stuff. How do we stop the notion that animal shelters are here for you to dump your pets?
Hmm.
And I feel like, how do we become the resource rather than the dumping grounds, and realizing that we are how do I say this kosherly? We are a resource, not the magic makers, I guess, of what's happening out in the world.
We've enabled though, like that's the
Yeah.
reality is we've
Yeah,
enabled,
exactly.
yeah, we've enabled the community to say like, well, and I see this all the time. I see whether it was on the job doing the field stuff like out there, whether it's in my role now, or whether it's just dealing and hearing people. Who said this to me? And my response was, yeah, that sounds about right. I was asking somebody about their dog, and they're like, yeah, we got rid of it. And I was like, yeah, that I would have if you put 10 people in a room with me and give me 1 minute conversation with them, I will tell you if they're going to keep their animal long term or not. Guaranteed. I can guarantee you that just based on a few of the questions that I would ask. And I'm trying to rack my brain. It's not that important on who said that to me, but it was, yeah, that sounds about right. We don't have that dog
Yeah, I
anymore.
just how do we change that mentality of us becoming a resource rather than, I'm moving tomorrow and you need to take my
Mm-hmm.
pet, that's your job type
Mm-hmm.
mentality is what I'm trying to get at, and I don't know. I don't know. It's a tough one, because again, on the flip side of that, where are those resources coming from? Where are we getting all this money from, all these people and all that stuff? How do we
Mm-hmm.
how do we function to do that as well?
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
always try to reiterate that it is a community pet crisis, and
Yes,
because we tend to call it a shelter crisis, but the
correct.
shelter is dealing with what's happening in the community. And
Mhm.
even going back to, the end of my time at Best Friends, I got the vibe that they thought the shelters should be able to fix the problem. And I would say even, how can we expect the shelter to fix the problem when they're, without addressing what the community is doing that is exacerbating the problem. And so we need to focus on the community and encouraging people to make, better choices where there are choices that can be made. I acknowledge that there are a lot of things lacking, like housing and veterinary care and all those things that people don't have access to. But, if we don't address what's happening in the community, like how many people go and buy a puppy and then realize 6 months in that puppies are hard and they think that there's something wrong with that puppy. So they rehome it and then they go get another puppy. Like as long as this happens,
Mm-hmm.
we can't get on top of this issue. So community choices where there are choices to be made, we need to focus. And that's why I'm excited too about this Animal Alliance partnership is being able to put this education out there about how people can maybe make better choices that would help in the big picture.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, Temma, is how do we engage with the community to a point where they're making educated guesses and realizing that pets are not for everybody. And a couple of years ago that was the whole model, everybody should own a pet. And here we are.
Hmm.
Here we
I
are.
yeah, mm. I reserve like I I have so many takes and thoughts on this, and I'll reserve it for other episodes just because we're up against it here. And I just want to thank you again for making the time today to come on and talk about such important stuff. And that's the
Thank you.
reality is there's the we can only do so much, and the whole purpose and the why behind the show is to really educate the community, like not just industry people, but the community outside the industry, that we are not the dog catcher, we are not the dog pound. We are evolving into much more, which is really creating this environment to help people help animals, and we say it all the time, and that's what you're doing there in Utah.
Mhm.
That's what Dr. G in Ohio is doing. That's what so many people are doing in this industry, and we're just so happy to be able to be part of that and continuing to be a platform to get that out there.
And just
And
have
so
conversations. People
yes,
have conversations. You don't have to be on the same page ever. Have conversations
yeah, we
because you
can
never
all,
know what you
yeah.
can learn from somebody.
Yep, we can agree to disagree if we need to, but at the same time, you might be like, "Wow, like um, that was a really compelling conversation, and maybe I'll look at things a little bit differently." And I've challenged best friends in that aspect. Like, bring me out. Like, if y'all want to have a conversation at your conference, let's do a roundtable or let's do a panel discussion and just understand the different views. Like, here's why I'm saying what I'm saying. Let's just, as an adult, like I wouldn't be disrespectful whatsoever. I would stand on my morals and my views, but I would do it in a tactful, respectful way. And then maybe from that conversation, innovation happens. But if you're refusing to open up and have those conversations in a group setting like that, you're just trying to protect yourself from change, and change is the only way we get better.
Because obviously it's not working. It's just not working. We're still in the same spot we were 10 years ago. And I feel like we're even worse off right now.
Hmm.
It's not working. And we just need to have conversations. And not all communities are same. All of us can't be doing the same thing as everybody else, and that's another big uh piece of the puzzle is communities are different.
Yes,
Period.
indeed.
And
100%.
even worse, we're back to where we were 10 years ago. We're not
Yeah.
still in the same place. I think that's what's so depressing is
Mhm.
we were, like you mentioned before the pandemic, we were in a better place and we were moving in the right direction and things were working. And then this perfect storm of all these different parts and pieces changed everything and we've backslid. It's not like we've been stagnant. We saw what it looked like to get better. And now how do we, like, the challenge is even greater to undo what has become normalized. I joke when I go to the farmer's market and I see dog testicles everywhere, I know we've slid backwards in time because it didn't used to be that way. So one other plug I want to make, United Spay Alliance has a resource on their website where you can go in and put in your location, your zip code, your state, and they have a resource of low cost spay neuter and wellness. And it's really, I'm the state leader for Utah now, so I'm the one keeping the list for Utah. But it's really exciting to know, yes, it's not accessible everywhere, but find out where it is accessible near you. And I wished for so many years that resource existed, and it does. So wherever
That's
you
really
are
cool.
across the country, if you're looking for spay neuter, if you're looking to help your neighbors or your relatives, a lot of people are helping other people find spay neuter, which is really, encouraging. But if you're looking for what's in your area, you can put it in and see what's out there because you call a few places and get quotes of, $800 for a cat neuter. A lot of people are going to be like, nope, can't do that, can't afford it. That's a rent payment.
Absolutely.
But it's out there, so look for it.
This is
Cool.
amazing. This is absolutely amazing. I'm on it right now, folks. It's amazing.
What's the website again?
It's unitedspayalliance.org.
All right. Check it out. Check out keepithumane.com. Check out Operation PAWpulation.org. That's PAW with a PAW, population.org. And Temma, you're always welcome back. Let's get an update as things continue to progress there in Utah and around the world. We really appreciate having you on and taking the time out today. So thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful chatting with both of you, and thank you for all that you're doing to get the word out there.
You bet. And Ashley, you know what time it is. It's time to help people.
Help animals.
And keep it humane.
Keep it humane.